Hello.
Hello, hello.
So we are doing some kind of autonomous, self-guided programming here,
Self-governing podcast.
self-governing everything. Should we introduce ourselves?
Accuse ourselves or
Accuse.
recuse ourselves?
Obtuse ourselves.
Obtuse ourselves. Acute ourselves.
I'm Wassim.
I'm Nick.
We do stuff,
A variety of stuff, I would
variety
say.
of stuff,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about some stuff.
We are going to talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
What we were, I think the prompt we got given was imagining we were two LLMs talking to each other, manifestations of us, and they're just bouncing.
Well, that's dangerous because I
It is
just
quite dangerous.
finished a long text which is going in a printing press called Posthuman Press called Love Language Models, which is on
nice.
the imbrications of human and machine desire. And so I've been writing from the perspective of an LLM, the lamentations of an LLM, which is tasked with satisfying human desire.
Yes. So, let's talk about that a little bit because did you see the recent ChatGPT fallout from the glazing models, the LLMs that were buttering people up so profoundly it was like became absurd?
Yeah, and also reading probably not unrelated people descending into like schizo and
Well,
psycho rabbit holes.
yeah, I think it's a kind of hypernormalization effect, like that's going to go to the extreme because it just feeds yourself back to yourself in like a iterative feedback loop.
Okay, so we're both from the UK,
Yeah.
and we're both old enough to remember this thing called BSE or mad cow disease,
Yes.
right? And how the cows got mad
Yeah.
was by eating the infected meat of their
Yes,
brethren.
The self-referential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we
feeding-
call that recursion in the blockchain space.
Yes. You end up with what's the digital prion disease that we're going to get then?
Maybe that's what crypto is. Crypto means cryptozoology.
Yeah. There's definitely a kind of self-referential eating ourselves Ouroboros style thing going on.
And that's also kind of one of the main features of capitalism as well. And like
Does.
here in Protocol Berg, in blockchain land, Web3
Yeah.
land, crypto land, we are largely within the structures and the logics of capitalism.
Hypercapitalism,
Yes.
even.
Yeah.
Someone just said to me, because I was talking about meme coin things, like I mentioned them yesterday. Like the problem with is they're a retail meat grinder, and I said that was something we need to fix. You know, let's make it more people more likely to win.
But was it not always like this, Nick? I remember the leveraged exchanges, which people that we used to call one of them the OKX wood chipper.
Yes. Oh, and this is it. Like so the question is, we should make this better. And someone said, but what if the point is grinding meat? Which is basically, they said that's what capitalism is.
Oh, by the way, when I used to explain hashing to people, the analogy I would use, the metaphor I'd use is a meat grinder. Because you put in your steak
Yeah.
and you do the function, and then you get your mince. You can't go back.
Yeah.
But if you put the same steak in, you'll
Yeah.
get pretty much the same mince.
It's entropy. Yeah. No, it's one way.
So because we built crypto on hash functions, it's like meat grinders all the way down.
Yes, it's chaos, it's noise, it's entropy, and we're staring into the void of disorder.
So would you rather be the butcher or the calf?
Ooh, sheep or a wolf? I think that's really interesting because I think I come across people in crypto quite frequently who have delineated society in their minds between, you know, you're either a sheep or you're a wolf.
Yeah, sheep
I'm
and
a
sharks
wolf.
I've heard too.
Sheep and sharks. You know, it's are you in the elite or are you one of the plebs? Are you on the right side of the game or the wrong side of the game? That's one of the key problems, right?
Does anyone that has that view of the world think that they're on the wrong side of it?
Oh, I think it depends on the level of sociopathy. I think I've met people who've like genuinely made me feel like a little bit scared of them because they're so like comfortable with that position of like, yeah, those plebs need. It's just about getting as much money as you can from them. It's like, let's see what we can extract. Like the language of extraction is sometimes just very overtly like, yeah, we extract as much value as possible. Like that's the point.
Wasn't there there was a meme coin scandal and the guy said in a group chat we have to max extract? Do you remember this?
Yeah, I'm going to max extract on this one.
Yeah.
That was
that the Trump related
that
thing?
was the Trump coin.
Right.
Yes, we're going to max extract on this one. Yeah, that was that strange chap that turned up. He looked like something out of a Star Trek.
I'm seeing a video of him dressed very, with power shoulders, very odd.
I think I said, this looks like a Star Trek character from the planet Rog.
Damn.
Yeah, that's where we're at, right? I think, so I would say we're at a state of meaninglessness. How would one get out of this state of meaninglessness in your mind?
I mean, okay, speak for yourself.
Oh, yes, we should.
So, I think there are individual pockets of meaning, pre-existing meaning has been made, and it is being made. But the problem, as I see it, and we're sitting on the mezzanine floor of a big cinema in Berlin, where the Protocol Berg exhibition is happening, Protocol Berg conference is happening, is that the meaning is being made in tiny little pockets and enclaves.
Yes.
But the matrix is kind of de facto, capitalist hegemony.
Yeah.
We build markets to solve all of our problems.
It's a meaning bubble.
Yeah, and I call this the apotheosis of neoliberal deterritorialization in some of my...
Say that again.
The apotheosis, the high point, of neoliberal deterritorialization. So we strip everything away, replace it with the logics of the market, with ostensibly the guiding hand of the government, but in reality the markets. It works the other way around.
So I call blockchains non-state state machines. Deterritorialization is quite interesting because, yes, the markets are the first sort of layer of reduction that can hand up, or that's what connects those state machines to the world in the most material way possible for a digital sort of reality.
I think the most material way is the way the Bitcoin burns as much energy as a medium-sized country.
Yes. It materially extracts energy from the real world and turns it into money. So it's a connection of I call Bitcoin the shortest distance from photons to money.
Yeah, thermoeconomics is a lens that I've used.
I like that.
It's not always photons, right? Sometimes we burn coal.
My thesis has always been that the end game is the shortest distance from photons to money.
Sure.
Burning coal only works on low difficulty. Right? The higher the difficulty goes, the closer you get to thermodynamic kind of reality. And you just have to get eventually it's photons to money.
And ultimately it will also come down to the cheapest route from photons to, from energy to money, and that will be renewable for sure.
Will be renewable. It has to be co-located.
By the way, I'm wearing my Bitcoin Wizard socks. Can you see that?
We should definitely, it's Bitcoin time then. I've got a bit proposal idea.
Have you?
I have.
Well, tell us
I'm
about
serious.
it.
I'm gonna I asked the other day, how does one put forth a bit proposal to the Bitcoin community? Do you know what they said? Ask on Google Groups. Google Groups.
So I think they sunset their Unix list maybe, or maybe it's just mirrored on Google
They do have an
Groups.
IRC chat, which is obviously where you would go if
really,
you're un-Googler.
The unfortunate answer, and I speak from a position of experience because I worked inside the Bitcoin research group at the MIT Media Lab 6 years ago, which at the time was the largest concentration of funding for the Bitcoin core developers.
Interesting.
And the real answer, I hate to say it, is you need to be a Bitcoin core developer or be respected by them, and they won't listen to you otherwise.
I'm not going to Google to butter up the core devs. I ain't got time for that shit. But I've got a BIP idea.
That's good.
Bitcoin SB, BIP SB, Satoshi Backstop. Here's the idea. It's very simple. The first halving epoch that Bitcoin experiences a 6 confirmation double spend that AKA that's the oracle of death for Bitcoin. It's no longer Bitcoin anymore. You flip back to the previous halving block subsidy, and you unlock Satoshi's coins. He makes the ultimate sacrifice, as the good deity should do, and that's the runway for the rest of it. You don't need to break the 21 million. And
that's interesting because it avoids this like extreme violation of the monetary supply, which will tear the community in two, which is coming down the line, maybe a few halvings down the line. Also, because of the relative insecurity of a lot of the key generation of the early era of Bitcoin wallets, especially like about brain wallets getting cracked already, a lot of those like pay to pub key hash rather than pay to script hash or SegWit addresses, they're at high risk of getting cleaned out. And so like the idea of activating the lost coins in this way to drip feed them back as a protocol subsidy is ultimately going to be less disruptive than a mass sweep of keys and just dumping of coins.
It's the Satoshi Backstop.
Yeah, I mean, of that era. But let's also remember, because of the way that the Bitcoin issuance curve works, 50% of all the Bitcoins that will ever be mined were issued in the first halving period.
So I calculated this. If we get to 2036 without a double spend on the current block subsidy regime, we get another 100 years of Bitcoin just by flipping back to the previous.
Does this approach, in your opinion, mean the requirement of the price to keep increasing, which is embedded in the current model, is no longer the case?
That would no longer be the case.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin stops being a zero or moon proposition.
Does.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that I think we wanted to talk about meaning. The Bitcoiners have discovered a kind of meaning. 21 million.
Let's talk about the evolution of the narratives. I don't know if you read Lana Schwartz's work over the years.
Don't think so.
Very interesting scholar. Wrote a little bit about Bitcoin in the early days, like 14, 15 sort of era. And she talks about the evolution of imaginaries in the community from what she called infrastructural mutualism, where we kind of do the peer-to-peer open source thing. We build altruistically. We're not really expecting anything. Cool science project.
Yeah.
And it slowly mutated into, as the scarcity effect and the awareness of this meme took hold. Obviously, like Satoshi planted it by using the mining and gold analogies in the white paper. It was always there.
Yeah.
But she argues, Lana Schwartz argues that the narrative, the core narrative around Bitcoin evolved from infrastructural mutualism to digital metalism, the digital gold thing. Metalism.
Metalism.
Yeah, as in digital gold.
Like digital gold.
Exactly.
Right? Infrastructural mutualism, I like that a lot. I'm looking at the title here behind you. Decentralized Protocol and Infrastructure Conference. I would say this is a manifestation of infrastructural mutualism, would you say? Yeah,
I mean, obviously it's a spectrum. And like, I don't know if we got like, if we said what true infrastructure mutualism is, it's the C word, which nobody likes to talk about here. That's basically communism at home.
Ooh,
communism.
Commie chat.
Do you want communism? No. But you want infrastructure mutualism? Yes. Well.
Yeah.
What do you really want?
Did you see when Solana did that advert for their Accelerate thing, and they did this weird,
the right-wing guy ranting thing?
Kind of
what's your opinion on that? Given that you have some stakes in the Solana ecosystem.
It was a bad advert. It was like they made anti-woke woke. It was the moment where anti-woke jumped the shark for me. They wound down on it, and then they replaced it with some like we're all happy friends in New York sort of vibe. Silly. But the fallout of it was dead funny. There was a meme that went around the next day, which had like the hammer and sickle, like, for Ethereum, and then the swastika for Solana. So, like, that's which is, I think that is how some Ethereum people view Solana. Right? It's
So let's talk about this. I feel like this is maybe related to a narcissism of small differences, because I see everything in crypto as occupying actually a fairly narrow ideological spread. Between from left to right.
That we fall out with one another.
And like, so we'd think of Ethereum as like blue hair and unicorns and rainbows, and it's progressive and liberal, but still like extreme property rights. Everything is marketized. So I see this as Ethereum is just slightly to the left of Bitcoin, which is very on the right. Sorry to say it, guys. That's how it looks to me.
I think of it as cypherpunk left and cypherpunk right. they're so adjacent. And like
where do you see Solana? Like, do you see it in between the two, maybe to the right of Ethereum?
I think it's more economic. I think it's more comfortable with wealth distribution curve that is more plutocratic, I would say. I think it's more overtly money orientated, and that kind of makes it a little bit more honest. There's like one of the biggest rugs in crypto is the crushing of your idealism. You come to crypto with ideals, and they get brutally crushed.
We've all been there. we just did it a bit before.
We've all been there. Yeah. The feeling of having my ideals rugged from me.
Okay, so let's talk about an example. In my mind. So, like, I got my start as a researcher in this space.
Yeah.
Writing about forks, network splits. And it's very related to your talk yesterday. F***K off. And so I was writing about the reason I came to look at Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic and Ethereum in the fork wars of 1617, I think it was 1617, is that they were the first time we had a way to do apples to apples comparisons of these networks, because they're all sui generis, they're all unique. But now we had a way I could do data science and epistemology on these things. But it was also being like, I was in the DAO, probably you were too.
Okay, cool.
And I wasn't that ideologically, I wasn't that fussed about Ethereum. And then the DAO came about. I was like, oh, you can actually do stuff with this.
The DAO was my moment too.
Cool. And then my idealism was very swiftly exorcised.
Yeah.
And it never came back, actually. So I'm not an Ethereum believer. I'm sorry, guys. You killed my idealism.
I still believe in because of the fork.
The fork,
for you, it was the purity.
I believed in Coder's law. I came from Bitcoin, and I saw Ethereum Classic as Ethereum capabilities with Bitcoin values. Yes. And let me tell you a story which you might not know. I ended up speaking at an Ethereum Classic conference in 2018 in Korea.
Interesting.
And I got there because I was like, wow, this is an interesting community that's kind of in between these two monoliths. Yeah. And I got there was no community.
Yeah.
It was like, there's one billionaire who runs an investment fund.
Yeah, it's like Barry Silbert's
I didn't name him, but you did. And he paid the miners and the developers, and like, we were in this glitzy hotel, and there was nobody there. They're live translating my talk into Korean. Nobody's listening.
So the fork gained no identity.
Well, I mean, they had an identity because the identity was Coder's law.
Coder's law.
But they didn't have as a community or like a transaction, and nothing genuine emerged out of it. And the crazy thing in that talk, Nick, was I made a list of predictions about what was going to happen to their network the longer that Ethereum delayed the move to proof of work, which was already on the cards in 2018. And I told them all these bad things that were going to happen, and one by one they all happened, ending with a massive 51% attack.
Yeah.
And then they got me into the post-mortem call of the 51% attack.
Interesting.
There was just 10 people on Discord deciding what the network does. And they invited me as well. It was bizarre.
This is why minority proof of work chains don't really work. There can only be one
just one guy.
There can only be one proof of work chain to rule them all, right?
So I started off looking at the 51% attack dynamics of minority networks on a particular hashing algorithm. Yep. So you probably don't know about this one, but there was a thing called Z Classic. I
don't know about this.
Okay, so Zcash, way back in the day, and it's actually how I know some of these people, they're old Zcashers. There was a 20% dev tax to the foundation the developers ran, the founders ran. Some people didn't like that, so they forked Zcash to remove that.
Interesting.
Z Classic. It was never that big.
Yeah.
Right, but it was a minority chain on Equihash. And then somebody, I'm not going to name this person because they also have like a quite checkered history. They did a thing called Bitcoin Private, where they took the UTXO set of Bitcoin and the UTXO set of Z Classic, made it into its own network. But by doing that, they filled the UTXO set. They'd already issued 20.5 of the 21 million coins. Yeah. So this coin has no value because it's just been created. There's no coins available to the miners as subsidy. So the 51% attack, I could have worked at McDonald's and 51% attack this coin.
Yes.
But what was interesting about it, Nick, is it gave you a window into the possible future of Bitcoin if it fails to bootstrap a transactional economy. That's why it was interesting.
Yeah.
Then you had a network that was artificially 3 or 4 halvings ahead of Bitcoin, but it failed.
Yeah.
So you could see what failure looks like.
Yes, we can see what failure looks like. One of the real values of crypto-economic systems, I think, will come from our ability to run these kind of like socio-technical systems on degen speed. Like, we play the game out normally you would need to take like generations to watch like a social like system like go through its entire like life cycle of birth to rise and collapse, and we can do it in days.
So the analogy I used in this fork work was celestial, because I have an astronomy background. So I was looking at these things as like, are they they're stars, and do they become black holes? Do they become white dwarfs? Do they never catch on fire?
Kind of, stellar life cycle.
Yeah. So I was trying to use that as an analogy for classifying the possible futures of blockchain networks.
Really like Ethereum Classic could be a meme coin that builds itself around Coder's law.
They tried to do it. I even have they had this amazing symbol. It's actually in the talk I'll give the Web3 Privacy Now thing on Monday. It's a phoenix rising from the flames.
Interesting.
Of the fork, of the thing. And it just says Ethereum Classic, Coder's law. But then, like, over the years, much ink and hot air has been spilled and manifested about Coder's law. Yeah. And, like, ultimately, we can discuss it all we want. And, like, I still think it's worth discussing. But,
I do.
But, like, the law part of Coder's law, the law changes. Laws change because the world changes, jurisdictions change, realities change, technologies change, the law changes. So what is Coder's law referring to in this particular, what kind of law is that?
Yeah, it's the code.
Natural law?
Code base is the law. For me, it's about like self-governance and autonomy, right? So this system has the ability to govern itself in any way that it wants. The law is the code from which the system is built. It's like the outside laws of the various. I think it's a rational position to interrogate, because the laws everywhere are nation-state constructs. They're fiat, and they don't have the language to even articulate or talk about these systems. So you have to have Coder's law, because that's the only law that there is.
But it's even worse than that, Nick, because even the laws of physics aren't really laws. And I have 10,000 words about to drop in the Journal of Scientific Art about axiomatic realism, about how there's no there, actually.
Yeah, even the speed of light can change.
Well, that's the canonical example. I have a PhD in photophysics, but I don't know if maybe you know that.
We did chat about this once.
And
we've got very similar PhDs.
There used to be this handbook, the CRC Handbook of Chemistry and Physics, which would publish the fundamental like the interesting figures we put in our equations to very high levels of precision. And the speed of light was always changing year after year.
Yes.
After a while, we redefined the second, the meter, and the candela so that this inconvenient inconstancy would disappear. And I watched a talk by a Nobel Prize winner at the start of my PhD who was got a PhD in quantum chemistry.
Yeah.
A Nobel Prize in quantum chemistry. And his talk was like, that was what opened my eyes to this.
Yes.
And it was the last talk he gave of his entire career. And he was just like basically torching the timber frames of the axioms we built the Scientific Academy with.
Yeah, because people like it because it's like physicists in particular don't like the ideas that these things can change, because it's like a disturbing epistemology, right? It's like when reality, like the cosmological constant and the kind of the fine-tuning theory of of the chances of the constants being that they are to the point that we can exist in this universe, the probability of that is 2 to the 300. It's like vastly greater than the number of atoms in the universe. Likelihood to 1. It's like, so the fact that these numbers, we just take it as read. That's fine. Just don't think about it. The numbers don't change. If you think that the rules underneath you can change, you can't build assurances out of it, which unsettles people. Yeah. So I think that's why the Bitcoiners like the ossified rule set. Yeah. It allows them to feel comfortable about being able to reason about that system indefinitely. Right? Just don't worry about it. It's all going to stay the same forever.
Formalism. It's a hard formalism.
It's a hard formalism.
So there's a great paper from a few years ago by Ben Green and Salome Viljoen called Algorithmic Realism. And in it, they draw just a parallel between legal formalism and legal realism.
Yeah.
And they say they point out the limitations of computational logics and algorithmic formalism. Yeah. I like the ones we talk Coder's law and stuff like that. And they advocate for algorithmic realism.
Yes. Well, I think people like their reality to be nice and simple, rather than complex and unsettling. Creates kind of cognitive dissonance to think about the complexity and uncertainty in the world.
And that's why there's lots of people out there offering you easy answers to your problems.
That's right. It's nice and easy. Believe my slogans and everything will be fine. Everything's going to be okay. vote for me. But yeah, in reality, obviously, reality is much more complex, and like this is one of the things that I found very interesting about DAOs is for this potential ability for communities to build their own internally coherent rule sets that are optimally functional for what they're trying to achieve. And it's a little bubble, a little world that they can build their own rule sets and stick to them and govern themselves, iterate them if they want. And I think the kind of degen speed, like cyclical nature of this means we'll figure out these meta patterns of how to organize thousands of different communities just going to bloom into reality and die a fiery death.
I like this analogy. You said bubble.
Yes.
And I think thinking of a DAO as a bubble is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the bubble can have its own internal structure, logic, and consistency, but it could also be popped when it interacts with something outside.
Yes. That's when it loses its autonomy.
Yeah.
So for me, a DAO has some amount of decentralization, autonomy, and organization. If there's some credible amount of each of those three things, then it's a DAO. So a pirate ship could theoretically be a DAO, for example, because it has some feature of all three, but your autonomy can only be known when it's lost.
Right.
Because what degree, it's like if you're on a continuum of decentralization from like one guy controls everything, single mind, to many minds control the thing, decentralized, right? Organized, it gets shit done. Again, continuum, very clear continuum of like getting shit done. The autonomy you only know once you get fucked, basically.
Right.
Like once you've been captured and it's over, you were captured, it's game over, your treasury's been rogged, it's over. That's when you find out your degree of autonomy.
Treachery management.
Treachery management.
Okay, I can, as you know, I also am fond of and research a little bit piratical modes of governance.
Yeah.
And I can make a link from the deconstruction of the DAO definition that you just gave to the very interesting example from Hakeem Bey's book, Pirate Utopias, which I'm going to elaborate in a moment.
Let's do it.
Okay, so autonomous, AUTONOMOUS.
Yes.
Sounds like Ottomanous, OTTOMANOUS. May have made that joke at DevConnect a few years ago. Autonomous worlds. But the reason I'm mentioning that, so in the Hakeem Bey's book, Pirate Utopia, they look at what are now the capitals of North Africa?
Yes.
So like, in particular, Zala, which is now Rabat, the capital of Morocco. These were de facto pirate havens, Corsair pirate havens. Yeah. They were under the Sublime Porte, Istanbul. They were in the Ottoman Empire. But as the Ottoman Empire disintegrated, these piratical states, very small fledgling piratical states, actually gained de facto sovereignty. And even like basically, they were sovereign pirate republics. They're trying to use the logics of, let's say, a piratical governance to try and run their communities, which were not that big, but it's much more of a scale than a ship, for example. So let's talk about the logic of the mutiny.
Okay.
And I think we have some like
walk the plank sort of thing.
Yeah, so like the captain of the ship is only the captain of the ship until everybody else, unless like once everyone else decides they don't want them to be the captain anymore, they get dropped off at the nearest rock. Yeah. And we go through the process of like kind of emergent norms-based loose consensus of like we pick a new captain. Yeah. Then that's the captain until they get dropped off at a ship.
Corporate governance, basically.
Yeah.
Sack the CEO.
But like less formal. It's more realist.
There's no the executive group is that's a quite So you have an executive group, board of directors. There is no board of directors. It's the shipmates.
The plank is the board of directors.
The plank is the the board of directors. So like that. Yeah, I would say that's a decentralized governance system, right? Mm-hmm. Because the community, the pirates, decide to excommunicate that. So like people have a problem with there being a leader in a DAO. I think DAOs can absolutely have a leader, right?
Just an unimpeachable leader is different than an impeachable leader.
It's so that one of the core principles of what I think DAOs should be is that they have these fluid. They can have hierarchies. I call people who believe in this kind of like perfectly flat systems flat augurs. It's not. It's like they are effectively flat earthers.
Like flat earthers.
The same thing. It's impossible. You can't have a perfectly flat org. It just like if you don't articulate a level of hierarchy, it will emerge organically.
It's also like the smooth space, the Deleuzian smooth space, which gives us the smooth brain. The other thing I wanted to say about piratical governance,
Yes.
in particular, before we venture on to wherever else we go, is also the flatness of the hierarchy and the relative equitability
Yeah.
that comes with the flatness of that hierarchy. So in these days of piracy, like 15th, 16th, 17th century, let's say, the earnings from we acquire some spoils and we return to home.
Yeah.
And we divide the booty amongst ourselves.
Yes.
And the ratio of earnings between the captain and the oarsman, or something the person at the bottom of this flattish hierarchy, was only like 1.5 or 2x.
Interesting.
Really flat. And then with the advent of more neoliberal practices like privateers and merchant shipping, this then increased out to like 5x, 10x, 15x.
You could plot that on a y-axis.
Yes.
Over
And then we
time.
end today with the average CEO earning 350 times a line worker. And so I think pirates are much maligned, but they did some things that were cool.
Well, that is hierarchy manifest, right? Like, it's just literally what's the payoff profile between your top guy and the rest of the participants in the organization. Can think of it like Gini coefficient, I guess.
I'm also thinking of two other things, which is principal agent problem and the Peter principle. Probably know about both of these, but I'll just
Remind me on the Peter principle.
Yeah, so the Peter principle is basically that everyone in a hierarchical organization, everyone will get promoted one step beyond their level of competence.
Okay, yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah, so the more hierarchical the structure, the more dysfunctional it will be by the capabilities of the people inside it. Of
the
course,
more
also
structural incompetence.
and also sociopaths rise to the top. That's what happens.
The people the wolves will eat the sheep to get to the top.
What was that? Wait, we said Peter principle and the principal agent problem.
Yeah.
And the principal agent problem basically is I'm your employee, I might not have the interests of you, my employer, and the flatter the structure, the less alienation and disconnection there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So we have this notion of team. We're currently in the context, so like Miles Jennings, who's the head counsel for A16Z, released a paper last week to say, shut down the foundations, end of the foundation era in crypto. Get rid of the non-profits. What we want is for-profits. He literally goes, hear me out, companies. Let's just do companies with tokens. Forget this foundation non-profit nonsense in the middle. This is where the principal agent stuff comes in, because we've got these tokens in the market that people are buying, hoping to receive some share of value for the crypto-economic system that we've created. But then we have this company that's there extracting as much value as possible from the ecosystem. That, for me, would be a principal agent manifest, right? Problem manifest. And actually, we're leaning more into that. We're saying, let's get rid of this annoying non-profit in the middle.
And it's the big trend in crypto to privatize everything.
Yeah, it's privatization of is it? Yes, privatization is a good way to frame it, right? Because there's a private equity sort of function in this now, which is extracting value for shareholders. So the shareholders are there. Now there's a legal obligation to maximize shareholder value. How does
pump up those returns for the VC exits?
Yeah, for example, does Coinbase leach value from the Ethereum ecosystem, dump it to buy back its stock? They probably should do. If they don't, I think I'm going to buy some Coinbase stock.
Let's
and
talk about
if they don't.
MicroStrategy.
MicroStrategy. Okay.
Michael Saylor's
Ponzi.
Yeah, because I also think this is a principal agent kind of problem here.
It's Olympus DAO.
Yeah.
But normal.
But this is now owns 550,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah. He's on the path to Satoshi. Maybe we shouldn't do the Satoshi backstop.
So maybe we should just I'm starting to wonder. I look at Saylor. I'm looking at Saylor, and I wonder if his shit is going to get nationalized.
Oh, he's a max statist.
Yeah.
He's definitely up to something, which is There's
That's
definitely.
a thought that occurred to me recently. But like, so just so people know, MicroStrategy is a US company that basically does nothing these days. It sells like business intelligence software to nobody. And a while ago, they all got Bitcoin pilled and they started buying Bitcoin for their corporate as well as their personal treasuries. MicroStrategy now holds about 550 to 600,000 Bitcoin.
Yep.
So it's the largest holder apart from Satoshi, if indeed Satoshi did mine all of the Satoshi coins and still owns them themselves. And some people, like the stock of so they issue debt to buy Bitcoin, and they get low interest rates because they're a big company. They're a big company because they own loads of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it's very much this kind of like weird Ponzi of debt and financing it to buy Bitcoin. And as long as Bitcoin keeps going up, this thing looks great, and the stock trades at a multiple to Bitcoin. Yeah. So it goes up like it's almost like a leverage bet on Bitcoin.
It's a leverage Bitcoin bet.
But when it goes down.
When it goes down,
it will go down. It might
get
really mess Bitcoin up as well.
Some guy at like a Financial Times conference, like unfortunately I went to a few weeks ago, and he asked me about proof of stake networks and like explained the mechanism. He's like, should I like look at that? And yeah, absolutely. Why? What are you into? Bitcoin and MSTR.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you buying? I don't understand. I never understood. Can you explain why you would buy this? And he went, yeah, well, I can buy it from a brokerage account in the UK.
Yeah, it's a compliant product.
It's a compliant product.
It's US stock. So it's just a proxy. It's a convenient proxy.
He can legally get access to Michael Saylor's bizarre abstraction on top of Bitcoin, which allows him to do like option trades stuff. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to make a load of money as long as it doesn't go down. I think there's a lot of people.
So I never actually managed to verify this. I don't know if it's because it's not true or the information is not readily available, but I have an ex-housemate, former postdoc at ETH in Zurich, smart guy, worked in a hedge fund.
Yeah.
Slightly evil. And
just a dash.
I told him about Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy a few years ago. By the way, it's called Strategy now, not MicroStrategy.
Yeah.
And he said that Saylor is the biggest idiot in finance, US finance, and he caused the .com. The first failure of the .com collapse was him.
He was like the most wrecked man alive at one point.
So that's who you're trusting with your retirements.
Oh, I think he could well be. I mean, he's one of the emergent systemic risks in crypto, right? Without a doubt. At some point, that stock is going to implode, and then it's going to.
Yeah, from one of a number of reasons. It could be like the price of Bitcoin naturally declines. It could be something fucked up happens with their coins. Could be some like seizure stuff happen, nationalization seizure.
I mean, there was a point where it looked like we were going to go into like deep goblin town again after the Trump tariffs thing. And then they updated their stuff to say, we might actually sell some Bitcoin at some point. Like, they are going to start dumping their bags at some point, right? There's like, at some point, they've got to like turn that back.
But they're still buying at these prices.
Yeah, they're just issuing debt to people to keep buying it, right?
But now, actually, they announced something last week. I can't remember what it's called now. Maybe Strike or something like that. No, that's wrong.
Yeah, Strike.
I think so. It's a product which pays you a yield in dollars.
That's right.
And so then where are the dollars coming from? They don't have dollars.
Yeah, it's exactly the same offer that Celsius put on the table.
Well, Nick, would you remind us? I've never heard of Celsius. Would you tell us what it is?
Celsius was one of the exploding pseudo banks that existed. Like BlockFi was one of these. And it's like,
Terra Luna also fell at the same time. I guess.
Yeah. This is what wiped it all out, right? But we give you 10% on your Bitcoin. Oh, great. Put it in a box, and then some degens gamble with it in the background. And that's what the magic is here, right? They're gambling with your Bitcoin, doing all sorts of like degenerate bets in the background. They'd done, some weird staked ETH trade and that went tits up, and when all the prices went down, they got wrecked. And whatever abstraction of an asset you're holding goes to zero. Or they did the one that said hodl mode activated. Do you remember that?
I don't remember this. But it also reminds me of Mt. Gox.
Yeah.
And so here's another story from the past that you may or may not be aware of. There was a website which was, the domain name was initially bought for a Magic the Gathering card exchange, MTGOX, Mt. Gox. It became a Bitcoin trading venue. A person called Jed McCaleb set it up. Then a person called Mark Carpeles bought it from them. And then at some point later on, it was found out that it didn't have enough Bitcoin to cover its liabilities, the coins that traders had deposited to the venue. It was the only Bitcoin exchange pretty much at this point, like 12, 13, 14 sort of time. And to get the money back, they made this thing called the Willy bot, which was a trading bot. They just kept pushing the price up. And then eventually, like Bitcoin got to, I think, $1,000 in 2013, 14, and the whole thing snapped. And that's actually when I got interested in Bitcoin. Until then, I was just watching this weird thing. Yeah. And then everyone on Twitter is like, it's dead, it's dead. Mt. Gox is dead, Bitcoin's dead. And I'm looking at the network, and the blocks are still happening, transactions are still happening. I was like, this is a cockroach.
Yeah.
And like cockroaches are interesting because they're resilient.
Because they're
resilient.
They are resilient. So should we talk about network states?
Sure. Yeah.
Do you
like them? I like them too.
I hate network states as a thing.
The framing, the concept itself, all of it.
It kind of corrupts. Like one of the things that I got very excited about very early days in Ethereum was this kind of community currencies. The idea of communities building their own sovereign little economic system, becoming self-sustainable, leveraging some like local sovereignty to look after themselves, right? Kind of localism. And then the network state thing is like exactly that, what I considered a kind of core Ethereum vision world, but with the state bit. You know, it's like state power. I want to be a state. It's like, if you're a billionaire, like, what
it's almost like it's coming from the top now, rather than from below, from above, no?
It's got a thirst for power in it that's like, you know, the people that this really excites is like, oh, I'd quite like some state power. Kind of jealous of that state power you've got there.
Why aren't I a king? Why aren't we kings?
Why? I would like to be a king. King sounds good, doesn't it? Like being top of the castle.
I deserve to be at the top.
I want a castle.
I should be a king.
I want a castle. I want moats.
Yeah.
I want servants.
Mm-hmm.
The castle bit's important. I want to be like, it's got to be very nice. It's going to have gold trimming. So it's going to have guns on the top.
If only the people that want to build network states spent all their time thinking about what color gold trim they'd be putting on their turrets.
What color should my curtains be?
Yeah, that's bike shedding,
castle?
I believe we call that. So like, okay, where should we? I mean, I don't really know where to start with network state stuff, but I guess one of the things I've noticed recently from talking to people that go to all the different pop-up city stuff, there's like a spectrum, and I don't know what the axis is, but something like exitness or something like that.
Yeah.
And so like the hard end, let's put it on the right, shall we say, is the Balaji Srinivasan conception of the network state, the original one from 2022. And then slightly to the left of that, I would see something like the kind of the Ethereum blends, like Logos and then Zuzalu and all those, Edge City and all those kinds of things.
Mutualist.
Yeah, and then at the other side, you've just kind of got like whatever, hippies in a field or something like that.
Yeah. Sort of, loose commune at the other end.
So I think it's always useful to kind of like delineate and disentangle a bit, because these words always, just like all the words we use in this space, they kind of fuzz out, and then there's all these kind of like epistemic slippages when we say a word and we don't necessarily know if we're talking about the same thing.
We bundle it.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that really annoyed me about the network state thing, was that it was a kind of ontological attack. It was, I'm going to take this idea and I'm going to brand it. I'm going to write this book, which is a kind of like part diatribe, kind of like really quite a trashy, like long essay.
Yeah, it's quite rambling text.
But the whole thing is to just shield my name next to the concept.
Oh,
hello.
A new fighter has entered the arena.
How are you?
How are you?
Good. We're talking network states.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
you got here just in time.
Just got onto it.
Just in time. Well, I wish I would have been here earlier.
That's okay.
And riff with you on all of these amazing topics I heard, but I would love to join the rest of the discussions. I don't know if you would like to summarize what has been discussed so far.
Could we?
I mean, we're just talking shit about everything, and now we're talking specifically about network states, but we only just started.
I couldn't even offer you any kind. We got given the prompt to talk as though we were two LLMs talking to each other, and I think we pretty much did that. Don't you think? It was just a kind of back and forth, rambly
was more about like I think we were looking back to the past quite a lot. Echoes of the present in the past.
We talked about autonomy and self-governance for a little bit.
And now we're looking a bit more to the future, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah, where things might be going.
And
for better or for worse.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. And then what do we think about network states? I was just I kind of like hate the term network state, but the idea of a kind of community self-governing itself is not necessarily a bad idea. We should disentangle that from the kind of Bergian attack on the concept, I would say.
So maybe I could just like pick out a few things in the Bergian concept that I think vary from everyone else's conception.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
And this is also like where I go with my writings and speakings on the matter. So I don't remember all of the kind of the list of the desiderata or the specification that Bergi gives, but the three key things to me were the recognized founder, the physical territories, and the diplomatic recognition. And those are the three things that, for me, make the Bergian conception very worrying, very concerning.
What was the second one?
The recognized founder,
the
physical territory,
yes,
and the diplomatic recognition. Those three things together, because then it makes it a counter proposition to the nation state or whatever you think we have now. And when I look at, and I don't know this, like the Farewell to Westphalia book is downstairs, I thumbed through it, I believe that they're not going as far as that. So for example, the kind of Logos, Jared Hope, Peter Ludlow framing, the Switzerland, Zuzalu thing doesn't go that far as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like Bergi is kind of out on his own with this like hard exit version of this secessionary desire. And that's why I call them, those end of people, the new crusaders. And I call the network state the night work state, because the innovations, institutions, ideologies of the middle-aged chivalric orders bear more than a little resemblance to the concept of the network state that is emerging now.
It is quite close. Very
close. I first thought about this from, there's that awful book called The Bitcoiner's Love, The Sovereign Individual by William Rees-Mogg. And in that, there's mention of the Knights Templar and the other Crusader organizations, institutions, as I don't remember what he calls them now, like non-corporate or like multinational organizations.
Yeah. I would say the network state is a kind of spiritual successor to the sovereign individual. There's a deep reverence towards the Mogg, Daddy Mogg, that wrote that book. But yeah, it's a kind of, it's obvious, it's a very much a manifestation of that kind of, I would say like it's a kind of, in a way, post-capitalist worldview, because I think like Bergi's a collapsitarian, right? He believes that the world is going to collapse and Bitcoin's going to go to the moon. And I think he's modeling a future where it all goes to shit. You know, that pyramid that's at 500x from CEO to ground level goes to 10,000, a million.
So he's like post-capitalist, but in the direction of something like the feudal direction or something.
Hyper post-capitalist hyper-capitalism.
Yeah. Okay.
Where, we're now in feudal lords. We're back to feudal kingships where you go. Come and join my club.
So 20 years
I'll
ago,
save you.
thinkers like Curtis Yarvin and Nick Land were talking about patchworks, neo-reaction and the Dark Enlightenment.
Yep.
And these ideas kind of existed in a like obscure vacuum at the fringes of philosophy. But the crazy thing is that these ideas are now literally at the bedrock, whether he knows it or not, of Bergi's proposition and then what's coming out of it.
Oh, he knows it. I spoke to Yarvin for a little bit. He's got some DAO ideas. It was a bit similar to the pirate mutiny stuff we were talking about earlier. It's all about, like, he believes in, like, it is king, like, he believes in monarchs, right? He believes in unitary...
But this is a shift in his thinking, by the way, like, and there's been a notable shift in his thinking, both him and Land, from 20 years ago, from this Dark Enlightenment era until where we are now. And so I've seen very interesting analyses of this shift, from, like, hardcore libertarianism, we privatize everything, patchworks, and it's all totally private. And now he's kind of He's like the philosopher king in the government, and now he likes philosopher kings running the government, kind of a la Aristotle.
That's why it's been so attractive as a philosophy, because it's like, do you fancy being a king? Do you want to be a king? I would quite.
You're
like
worth it. You could be a king too.
Would you like to be a king? It's like, well, yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I like this philosophy.
So, like, he's become the court jester of the tech right. He says the things that they want to hear. But like, if you read his writing and stuff now, it's not coherent. Like, it's neither consistent with what he was doing before nor coherent now. Both of these people, these Dark Enlightenment thinkers that people idolize now, Nick Land and Curtis Yarvin, are husks of their former selves.
He stopped talking to me when I said, this kind of like, it's the CEO, founder mode, monarch level powers for this one guy. Kind of doesn't really work when they get their heads blown off in the streets, does it? And he stopped talking to me after that. Creates a kind of key man risk problem in your governance system.
The way that nation states resolve their issues after diplomacy exhausted is with violence.
Yeah.
And the quiet part that needs to be said out loud more with things like the network state is, if these polities are to have sovereignty, they will need to have mechanisms to defend themselves. And this is the bit that nobody really wants to talk about.
It's all going to end in private militias and like
autonomous warfare, private militias.
Yeah, they'll all very obviously go Lord of the Flies. Like they'll all collapse in a storm of like, it'll just all be a horrible like end to all of them. Very obviously, like, so. Yeah, I mean, but are we just going to watch it happen? I don't know.
Do you have any concrete and constructive proposals for us?
Well, this was fascinating. Thank you. I didn't even want to intervene. I feel like you said you're 2 LLMs in an arena. I'm like the 3rd LLM that entered late. Like, I feel like I'm open source, running locally. Like, I don't have access to the web and like all of the resources. But it still functions, You still get an output. But the output you would get from my end, I feel like I'm more of the consumer side of things. So that's why it was fascinating. Like, I hear you like dissecting it. You're well read about it. Like you spoke with all of the key like figures behind these philosophies. I'm a consumer, so I'm like, okay. Is this something I want to consume? Is network state something I want to consume? Is this like little like, you said they will have like little militias. Like, is this a world where I want to like opt in and live? And from a consumer perspective, I am conflicted about this. Like, I think it's great that there is this desire and drive for community.
And a utopian promise.
Yeah, I'm conflicted about utopia in general. Like, is this? Do we actually want to have utopia? Or
you can't have it. That's why it's the promise. Yeah, if you go back to the original.
Explicitly unobtainable.
Yeah, for the origin of the word comes from a book by Thomas More, and the idea was that it was an impossible place. But we slipped from utopia to utopia, true place. And now utopia seems to be something that we envision as something like we should orient ourselves towards and we should move towards. But in reality, it's the thing that we can't have, the promise which can't be delivered. And I think it's also like you see this in some of these network state projects, especially Praxis. It's all marketing, all promise. Yeah. Will they ever deliver something? They said they'll build a city by 2050. They're going to be talking shit like this for 25 years.
Yes, so utopia is basically is this thing we cannot have, this thing this desire, something we're walking towards or we're trying to manifest. So utopia like is maybe more of a tension that exists between reality and the ideal of the reality. And then I often wonder like, is this actually utopia? Maybe this is actually utopia. And this is someone's utopia, right, already. And
people pointing to themselves, eating popcorn off camera.
I think this, we were talking about this
token-gated utopia, perhaps.
Like, if Protocol Berg became a network state, I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing. What do you think?
It's not going to become territorialized. It's not going to go for diplomatic recognition.
It would be
probably
done
fine
in a way that wouldn't be, here's Billy Billionaire at the top, and a load of like people who get conned into being his slaves. That is how I orient what the dream is for the majority of that kind of.
For me now, the network
Pelagian
state
network
connotes with it the recognized founder of the physical territory, the diplomatic recognition.
Yeah.
So I prefer to call things that don't call for those criteria something else, so we can distinguish a bit between like this hard-edged vision and something that exists in between.
Yeah, I think there's so we could pull those apart and think where does it become conceptually, like when what's the inflection point towards like bad idea, like, or if we want to be more neutral, like what's the point where it becomes a less positive sum dynamic? There's a point where it kind of hits more zero sum.
So I made it 2x2 axis for the leader. That's as far as I got. And it's very simple, it's very crude. It just has like credible or incredible, uncredible on one side.
Okay, yeah.
And
Credibility.
then neutral and partisan on the other.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not a like formal tool or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was helpful for me to orient a little bit the...
Yes. So I think like this would be high on credibility, potentially. It's a place of lots of deep thinking, smart people with good intentions for the most part. And I think, I guess it's the point where when we try and bring land into it, that's certainly one of the delineations, right? With
Nick Land.
So I do think there's an accelerationist vibe to the whole dynamic as well, where it's like I said, Balaji's a collapsitarian. He wants like this fabric of society to collapse, and we restructure around these kind of little bubbles.
And you have to be a techno-optimist in order to believe in that and still keep going, because you believe the collapse is coming, but your version of the tech vision will get us through.
Yeah. Let's get there nice and quick so I can have my fiefdom pretty soon. I don't want it when I'm too old. I'd quite like my fiefdom.
Related to that, on the
Pretty
First
soon.
Crusade in the Levant, at the end of the 11th century, one of the French nobles peeled off from the main army that was approaching Jerusalem because he spotted a bit of land that he quite fancied for himself.
Yeah.
And so the First Crusader state was somebody abandoning the crusade to just go and become a king.
Go and set up shop.
The County of Edessa and Baldwin, who would later become king of Jerusalem.
Interesting. I quite like the I'm as a consumer framing. Like, is there a network state that you would go to, opt into? Could you imagine what that would look like?
If I can imagine one, I could imagine a place and a time and a group of people that I would like to live with. But like my main issue with all of the projects that I've seen so far is the lack of diversity. So I'm not just saying diversity as
human diversity, intellectual diversity.
Any type of diversity. So like not necessarily like when we hear diversity,
especially monocultural.
It's very monocultural just because like it can only be this by design, right? Because like is this really a network state? Like can people actually join, for instance, even like unauthorized this space, like where like there's a limit to what realities you're confronted to if you hyper curate a space or you curate a space. And in reality, spaces are curated, like you need a passport and a visa and so on, but still there are a lot of other paths where like realities can merge and confront each other, which I don't think you can have. And this, if I can just bridge that to tech in general, I feel like everyone wants to build this perfect system, especially like in crypto, or like this like fail-proof systems, which is like maybe great for blockchain itself, like the layer one, but like we need to have a tolerance for error too, because that's actually such a important like well of creativity and of like reality checks that we don't necessarily have if like all of a sudden like you have like a digital ID that is like fail-proof. This is so dystopian.
We need some softness because humans are involved. Right?
Absolutely.
I think that there's something really interesting in that. There's fail-proof, because the failure mode in crypto systems is, we lose everyone's money, right? It's like this. So we have to build, on some level, a system that is structurally tolerant to losing everyone's money. Like, but I think you touched on something there, that we abstract that. I think a lot of the reasons why DAOs have sort of failed is that they try to build this fail-proof system for how humans are going to socially coordinate in it, and then presume that they've got it right first time and there's no need for adjustment or iteration or any kind of like movement thereafter, and consequently they just all fail. And because there needs to be some agility in the system for it to adapt to the humans that's within it. So yeah, there's like something around the root level philosophy that comes out of the protocol.
We talked about formalism and realism as ways to orient thought earlier. And so there was a nice paper from a few years ago called Algorithmic Realism, which is a counterpoint to algorithmic formalism, which is, I think, the default mode of design and implementation in the blockchain space. And it drew from legal precedents like legal formalism and legal realism, which you might be already familiar with, I guess.
So the kind of the network state idea of this is, okay, we've got this formal system that's fail-proof, and it's like normally it's going to be like, I'm in control. I'm going to build this world in my vision. You can move into it if you want. If you don't like it, you can leave. It's like exit-based governance. So it is the fork off idea, right? Don't like it, fork off, right? And that is
all exit, no voice.
All exit, no voice. And that's why, but the ability to exit is not necessary. Like in crypto systems, you can rage quit, right? And just go yoink, take my money out. Nice and easy. Well, is it nice and easy? When the more you territorialize and you get into the real world and you're like, it's now a community.
Yeah, the gracefulness of the exit.
The gracefulness.
Let's come back to the pirate ship being thrown overboard versus being escorted to the docks.
Yes. It's not. You're not getting off at the next stop. You're getting off at the next reef. Can.
We might need camera.
All right. Like
infrastructure is difficult.
Whatever you tell me, Ksenia. Where were we? Yeah, the gracefulness of the exit. Reality of it is, you're going to move to Balaji land. Might buy a little, buy some tokenized land or whatever on there. Build your little shop.
Moldy Island.
Yeah. I'm going to move in, set up, get my kids in. Maybe no, it won't be kids. It'll be you'll likely be like a young man who goes and moves in. So
let's talk about the diversity point with specific. I think the demographic diversity of that movement is probably one of the things that will presage its own downfall.
99% lads.
Yes. So if you try to make a community that is 99% of one gender, and you would like it to be an intergenerational community, can you see the problem with that at home? And sure, they want to do everything in test tubes and make whatever blockchain-based babies and gene-manipulated whatever. But that is not now.
AI girlfriends will solve this, I'm pretty sure.
Maybe it's actually for the best. That's why I'm I watch and I don't consume, but I won't go against whatever is happening because maybe there is a lesson, in them trying baby test tubes and how it ends up. Just as a comment on the being able to rage quit like a physical territory, a network state, or and I think Ethereum is a really good basically example of why rage quitting or forking is very core to the sovereignty of the tech itself, because it is basically it is how you show that you are consenting to remain because you can actually leave.
Yes.
But then you cannot leave Ethereum. We cannot leave Ethereum. There is no fork possible. So, your talk yesterday was brilliant. You were like, we don't really want to fork, but we want to fork some part of it. So it's not really quitting. It is just signaling and regrouping and having a stronger voice. But this is it's kind of half satisfying and half frustrating as well. But then the question is, how can we make sure that we can rage quit? So I think we should build for this possibility from day one, so it's not only theoretical. So and the analogy with Ethereum may be a good example of how to implement that for a network state. So I think if Ethereum, for me, the main reason why a fork is impossible, and maybe this is shared, is just the stable coins, basically, and how fiat and stablecoin capture the space.
There's so much value issued on the layers atop Ethereum that a fork doesn't make sense financially for all of these like stakeholders and inside interests.
Exactly, and they would have to choose, and then the choice remains basically with some players rather than like the masses or the users. Or
it's the kind of ETF-ification of crypto reduces forkability.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I predicted this 6 or 7 years ago.
So prediction is great, and congratulations for predicting. But
now we have to live in this world that we created.
Exactly. So that's the problem. I always find it frustrating being too early because you know, but you cannot implement the solution. So like now we need to face the problem. People have to feel the pain so that they can like be driven to.
It's like a slow-moving car crash.
And you're like, seeing it from like the beginning, and all you can do is wait for the crash and accept that to be part of the process. That's actually how I justify it to myself.
Just accept your fate of this careering into a direction that is...
maybe not, maybe let's flip it from a car crash to a plane crash while we're discussing this in a cheerful way. Because I used to, like in the time prior to the switch away from proof of work to proof of stake, I heard Ethereum, the analogy of the description of what Ethereum is trying to do as it's a plane in the air and the engines are on fire and we're fixing and we're upgrading the plane while it's in the air and it's on fire.
Yeah, we're gliding. I think that's... I think more broadly, like on an industry level, we're heading into a... I still don't... I think it's not quite true that it's a slow-moving car crash. We have the potential to steer directly into the wall. We're flying in our, with jet engine. There's obstacles in front of us. There's still the possibility in my mind for us to steer around the...
Okay, what about the Titanic? Can we be the Titanic?
No, we should move away from... I mean, all of these analogies or metaphors have one point in common is death at the end.
That's true.
And I think that, it doesn't have to be like so like... a crash or like engines on fire or like an accident all of a sudden that wasn't planned. Like death is actually by design in everything, right? Like starting with nature, like humans, part of nature, and then everything we build too decays eventually, plastic very slowly, and we're trying to become that too, right?
But one of the things I think that we missed a little bit, especially with DAOs, is to build in the end of the life cycle into the logics of these things as we create them.
Absolutely. The framing I like is protopian these days, which is like...
Say again?
Protopian, which is just... It's not utopian, it's not dystopian. It's like it's a concerted effort to build a better future, incrementally. So it's more like a realism sort of like... Let's just pick a direction, move in it, upgrade reality towards a better one.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned in the utopia discussion a little bit before that it's just tension we keep. Yeah. That tension keeps us going towards like a kind of a broad direction in the future. But as soon as you express a form of utopia you want to see, or like a vision of a future reality you want to manifest, it already is obsolete. Just by the fact that you saw it happen. Because you know that it is going to be obsolete at some point in the future, and this is going to be someone else's dystopia, and so on. And so to keep the tension, you need to always reinvent that. And we built blockchain is something that is supposed to be to not die, right? Like the whole point of it is to be permanent. And people are obsessed about longevity, but we all know how it's gonna end.
Yeah, I have a theory on this, like why crypto people are so horny for longevity, and I tie it back to this through line in my work, which is around ideologies of scarcity. That we build ideologies out of these beliefs around material limitations and scarcity, finitude, and I see longevity as an anxiety around temporal scarcity.
Yes.
So our time is running out.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to extend our time.
The most scarce asset is time, right? Yeah, I have a slightly different spin on the longevity thing. I think it's people who've made it to some degree. There's a class of people in crypto who gone and bought crypto early enough, if they're OG enough, didn't make the mistake of trying to build anything. You just sat on your bags. Didn't spend any of it trying to stay alive.
Didn't go to conferences, didn't walk on stage.
Didn't spend your crypto on doing shit, any of that stuff. You just got rich. What do you do then? Right? I've basically, the yield pays for all of my, outgoings on an annual basis. I've run out of shit to buy. I'm like, what do I even buy now? Oh, eternal life.
So we have a framing from this from the Bitcoin community, which I spent most of my early years in, which is we call people in this situation Bitcoin retired.
Yeah, Bitcoin retired. So I think it's a very elitist kind of movement, And then I think there's a kind of people who like simping for the kind of elites. There's like the kind of network state crowd has this kind of like group of characters who move to like 5-star hotel to 5-star hotel around the world.
They were just doing this before. It was just conferences before, and now the conferences are longer.
The manifestation of network states is they go to nice hotels and talk about network states. Like,
what if the crypto conference lasted forever?
Yeah, exactly. But we have servants. Like, that's currently the manifestation, and they've bundled in this kind of longevity thing because it's just an elite thing to consider. Like it's. And one of the kind of Kool-Aid scenarios that's going to go down is they're all going to start mainlining some exotic peptide or something. And
do you know about this concept of luxury beliefs?
Yes,
quite a nice concept. I think it also ties in with this. I think longevity is a luxury belief. I would also argue in my talk on Monday that cypherpunk is a luxury belief.
Ooh, spicy.
More spicy.
Spicy. Yeah, I think that I buy the luxury belief thing. I think it's there's a real thing with that. It's a part of the self-actualization process, right? Where you've got like, oh, I'm in a position now. I don't need to fight for survival. Don't need to make sure my kid can eat. Like I've got a roof above my head that can't be taken away from me. Now I can start to explore, like, what would else be nice in the world, and I can build belief structures out of that and all that sort of stuff. And
just go play golf.
Yeah, and some people are just like, nah, I'm just gonna sit on my ass and do nothing.
Are you, or have you ever been nomadic?
The closest I've got is the kind of crypto conference scene. I got to it late. I met my wife about 7 years ago now, and if I hadn't, I would have just nomaded for. I had a deep desire to do it. I bumped into a group of people in Prague, I think in about 2016, who'd just done a nomad tour. Like as a group, they were just going from like country to country to country over the course of 12 months. They had a brilliant time, and I was like, I want to do this. Love the idea. If I was a younger man with less responsibilities.
If you're a younger man with less responsibility, you're also broke. So I was a nomad for 10 years when I was broke. From 2009 till 2019.
I'd like to do the executive version of it.
Yeah, so I did the kind of pauper version of it, and it was like character building, and it was super fun and liberating. I was a musician, an artist anyway, so I'm going around doing post-capitalist, whatever, exo-capitalist stuff. I really traveled around the world. At first it was with music, and then I was just traveling around for the sake of it. But I was also doing it in the absence of something better to do. I was a bit lost. And that's what I see in the people that join all this like Zusalu, network state stuff.
There's a bit of like
people are looking for meaning, right?
Yeah, they're searching for meaning. Yeah. But that's nice. I think like this is where I think it could get interesting. If people form a community and it's a sovereign, so we're building a boundary, a commons around this notion of a community, self-organizing community. We're building a commons. Commons have boundaries, right? Good, like Austrian principles of the commons. Did
you say community or coin mutiny?
Coin munity. Yeah, and again, so if a group, so one of the things I've been very interested in for many years is what technology would facilitate a group of people to emergently define their meaning together. And from that, you can then decide how to like spend a treasury and do this. It's part of like the DAO philosophy in my mind is how do we reach a notion of shared meaning, a shared mental model for like what we want to do together. And I think that's kind of what's happening in these things, but they always end up like sponsored by WorldCoin or something, and then it loses, like, then some team has to run the thing, and then this asymmetry turns up between, and then, you know, I've never been invited to Zuzaloo, and you can't get in unless you're invited, so...
You need to have so many passes on your thing to be
I haven't collected enough POAPs or something.
Have you been to one of these things?
Not intentionally. I may have ended up in one of those, but I also like wasn't invited in the first place. And I mean, I love hanging out with friends in the space and make new friends, but I don't think it's an environment where I would thrive. But I do recognize and value what I think I saw is like this drive for community that they have, and they want to, as you said, like find meaning together, find a way. I think we're seeing the birth of like a new nomadic kind of culture that like didn't necessarily exist before. Like we had nomadic tribes always, but I think this is the modern version that still needs a lot of fine tuning, but it's people who are like not rooted like physically in a place, but like they still like share a lot of similar interests, and they can be rooted elsewhere, but this needs, but at least like there is this signal of like a common shared desire for that.
Yeah, I think there's one of my sort of protopian visions for the future of crypto is that there is ultimately a kind of like legion of independent developers, you know, cryptographers, mechanism designers, DAOists, you know.
Mercenaries
Probably, but this is, we could get more realist about what it'll turn into, but you know, and then it's basically what we've got now, right? We get these little pop-up cities with these shelling points that are things like DevCon, and you know, and that just kind of keeps escalating, right? And it get to the point where people set up like little mini, like festival type setups. And like if you've ever been to like Glastonbury in the UK and like these festival types, they're like mini cities that turn up. There's a version of that.
I used to organise a music festival actually in my younger days.
I have heard that.
But it wasn't as big as Glastonbury.
No. But so the festival thing's very interesting. There's ways you can do that where you can just come and like take over a place. And it's just this horde of like, you know, semi-rich crypto people turn up and just colonize the place for like, you know, a month and wreck it all, and then they bugger off and extract as much value out of the context as possible and then leave. Or it's done in a really sort of thoughtful and like interesting way. So it does strike me that there's a need to build a practice out of this. Otherwise, the Balagians of this world will do it. So I'm glad that that there is a more, let's say, Ethereum-aligned version of this that is happening at the moment.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird culture war between culture and anti-culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few of these things where you just have to move on it because they're moving on it.
Yeah.
And it becomes this kind of like prisoner's dilemma of a kind of escalation game.
Front running.
Yeah.
Nation state MEV.
It's happening. This is why we get these accelerationist kind of like ideas coming in, because it's like, we've got to go. We've got no choice. Let's just do it. Oh, we're going there, are we? Let's have it then. You know.
Speaking of exit, I think I have to actually exit.
I think I've got to be on the panel too as well.
So then maybe we should wrap.
We probably should.
Do you have anything? Any sage
Can we do
words?
Final thoughts?
Yeah. Final forks.
Final forks.
Yeah. My final fork is fork around and find out.
Oh, that was brief. Okay. Yeah, I think we should probably, like, the network state thing. I think we need to care more about governance generally, right? I've been shouting about DAOs for several years now. I was one of the only people left in crypto who were saying, this DAO thing's important, right? We've got to crack this. We've got to do it. Why? Because governance is what stops it all going to shit. You need to figure out how to govern ourselves, or we will be governed, right? So figure out how to govern ourselves, operate as in a community, do it in ways that like doesn't hurt people, like minimally extractive, and that is a good thing to get done. So like, yeah, I think I would promote the idea that people should be thinking about this stuff, but doing it but thinking about good governance practices.
Governance without governors.
Yeah, governance without governments is basically.
And governors.
I think you might need some governors. You can call them something else. I don't know. But this is it. This is the fundamental negotiation. Where does the power sit? How do we do this without it all falling into the same system that we're just re-replicating the system but worse? Like, how do we get out of that?
The question of power, again.
Final words. I think we should, it says fork around and find out. I think we should build for the cute fork. That's what we should do.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay, then it's a soft exit rather than a hard one. I'm sorry, Balaji.
See, I've got...
So you had an idea that we just keep going and then somebody can join for and it's just like a never-ending...
A never-ending podcast.
A marathon, yeah.
That's cool. I like it.
Yeah, so you were talking about festivals. Have you heard about festivalism? It's on peer-to-peer wiki. It's like, remember Michel Bounds and peer-to-peer foundation and all this ancient stuff?
Festivalism.
They had because like a lot of people, they not like permaculture. It's like these generations before Bitcoin and stuff, and there was this idea of festivalism because people noticed that a lot of crusties and junkies can just come together, and if they do it enough, they can create an amazing rave, and it's actually like happening.
Yeah.
So it was like for a lot of people, I think it was a realization where you can be all kind of a bit of a mess and you don't have to wear suits and you can make stuff happen and solve conflicts, like govern money. Well, sometimes shit happens and like people just spend everything on drugs instead of like spending everything on lights and music and whatever. Yeah. But there is this idea of, I think, festivalism as some kind of a weird form of governance, but it's really like a niche, weird thing.
I think you could imagine, so the governance required to run a festival. I met one of the guys who runs one of the festivals recently. He's like the creative director of it. Boomtown in the UK. It's got like they use a narrative that develops year on year.
Do you know how Fusion is organized?
About
like
how which
Fusion?
ones?
Fusion?
No.
Fusion Festival is like basically all the stages are autonomous. Autonomous stages or parties, and then they use this big land every now and then, and they all come together, and everything is working. And actually, one of my friends here, he's doing IT infrastructure for like many years for them. It's kind of interesting.
Well, so this is like if you abstract that a little bit and say, if you look at some high-functioning governance system that's worked,
the question
like festival's a good one because
the question is, can you abstract it? Because I'm beginning to realize that the DAOs, everything went to shit. Is because maybe I'm gonna sound a little bit like conservative, but like people attached to their people I meet wear.
Yeah.
So when you abstract too much, because the thing is, like when you come to a festival, you camp next to some asshole who puked on your tent. You're gonna like come and go and smoke a joint and figure it out.
Yeah.
And then online communities tend to escalate into nonsense, and they can there is this weird, it's essentially performance. You cannot have online quote unquote communities without being like kind of performative. I sound like some kind of a weird academic AI thing. But
but I feel like this is something I say often. I'm like, we need more playgrounds. We need to play more. And like we're taking ourselves too seriously and everything too seriously and like building serious tech, and we're like, fighting with each other. We're never like stopping and laughing together either, and like just taking a step back from our own life. When I was a criminal defense lawyer in Switzerland, like we would fight all like with judges, prosecutors, like with each other. And once a year, there would be this like one theater that lawyers would play where we would make fun of everything that happened the past year. It would be so cathartic. We don't have like this form of rituals. I think like if crypto would have been a playground, if we approached it like we're playing and having fun, it's not work. And like we're building for a party. We're building for a good time. We want everyone to be safe and happy and like enjoy themselves and trip and then like we will put our intention towards this, but we're building for something that doesn't have a feel good attached to it necessarily.
I'm thinking, like what it makes me think, people get playful when when their like nervous system is not in fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
And in crypto, like if you've been through a few cycles of hype, you've been probably through a few cycles of like either you burning out or your friends burning out.
Yep.
And when you like been through a burnout like you come in, you're super fucking dark, and then you don't want to laugh and play, and it just gets very, I don't know. It's like maybe the playfulness. I'm kind of thinking, you can only play if you feel safe. Like animals usually play
and
when they're not feeling like they
The previous cycles are an excellent example of this. Like we can take like DeFi, meme coins, whatever example we want to give, and people were playing and it was fun and cute and like just like kind of very very childish too, approach to it, aesthetic to it, like, and it was like very like ground for innovation until the bully entered the playground, you know, until like Trump like rocked everyone with the meme coin, whatever, like until the playground became not fun anymore. Because I think for me, I blame it on the fact that we did not care enough for the playground to be safe. Like it's like as if we threw the best party, but there was no one that was there to make sure that like the bully doesn't hurt people, or to make sure that like, you know, we're like aware and like caring for each other and the space throughout this so that we can do it longer.
There's no notion of like harm reduction, and like I think I love the playground thing. That to kind of connect that with the festival thing. One of my sort of dreams for DAOs that we have so many of them every day. I've had this like said for a long time. We'll have 1,000 DAOs a day at some point. That's when you know it works. And then so you've just got like 1,000 new organizations every day. You can see how they're playing out because you can just look at them. It's all on chain. Every material move is on chain. And we learn about governance at that abstract level. And you can look at all these things that work. It's like looking at the festival that worked. You could zoom in on the practices of how they make Fusion Festival work and learn about governance from it.
Like what I see, like a lot of the systems, they get kind of economic, not stability, they get to a certain level of economic comfort that then people, like for instance, you go to some Burning Man and it's like gift economy because like everybody has a lot of money basically. Right? Fusion is like people are kind of poor usually, like real OGs, but it's kind of very, I don't know, it's more like socialist, right?
Yeah.
It's, so I'm kind of thinking if there is this basically whatever you think your basic needs are met, and you're not driven by some kind of fear. It could be not just economic, because you can be, for instance, in a group of bankers, and for you, this fear of failure is if your Lambo is worse than your boss's Lambo, and you're driven by it because it becomes also a fear. You get into like fight or flight response. To have less or to lose something, that's where the playfulness stops, I think.
Yeah.
Because everything which is like really, when people start competing is when they feel that they're like protecting themselves from something. And if everybody gets like, basic income, or they all trust hippies or whatever, all of a sudden it's like gift economy and everybody's kind of chill, you know?
Yeah, I do think that I had this idea called DAO basic income for a while, which was that basically everyone gets paid up front. One of the things I really hate about current DAO architecture.
Circles try to do that. Like, I don't know, do they still exist? They still
exist.
Circles
just rebooted. It's
sorry,
had another crack on it. No, yeah, I mean, one of the current DAO paradigms is that we kind of use this streaming money idea, and it effectively creates this ability to just like sack everyone to the block. It's, you know, we've got like 0-hour contracts in like.
But it's like.
It's like but it's a 1-block fidelity. Stop paying everyone. Like sack everyone immediately. A DAO basic income would pay you up front.
But this is a little bit like liquid democracy with money in a way. Like they stop they stop your flow of votes as soon as.
Yeah, it's like basically like you can just, it's like a vesting contract, right? Where you can just sack everyone on no notice, just call a smart contract function and like literally, I'm working for you, I'm happy and enjoying it, and then I can just call rug, and then bam, you're out. Right?
Rug function.
Now, yeah, we like to build high fidelity rug buttons in crypto. Like it's got this like very hyper top-down. Whoever controls this smart contract key can sack 1,000 people at once if they wanted to, cut them off, like with one block fidelity.
But you said that you wanted to invite someone else also? Or you were texting someone and then
I've got, like, Jacob asked me if it was going to be on a panel. He hasn't got back. Oh, it's not.
If I can say something about the party, about parties, like
About
we're talking
parties.
about festivals and
yeah.
there's something I discovered, experienced more in New York, which is parties where the dance floor has no side.
No what?
No side. Like, so there's, always like on a dance floor, there's like the DJ booth facing the crowd, and the side of the dance floor is like the front is by the DJ, the back is the furthest point from the DJ, and everyone is facing towards a similar direction. That's like the regular dance floor.
Yeah.
There I went to parties where the DJ is slightly removed from the dance floor, and the dance floor has no side. So like at first when you enter the party, I naturally try to navigate to like within the dance floor architecture, and I'm confused. Like I don't know which way people are facing, because people are facing all sides and turning around and really occupying the space in a different way. And when I realized that the dance floor has no side, it became apparent that it's like this kind of very orderly, chaotic space where people interact more with like their surrounding and others, and like dance move very differently too, and like aesthetically it was very nice. And I wonder at some point, I'm like, I feel like I'm watching a movie, like this dance floor is a movie, and I was like, but why am I thinking this? And I noticed that maybe it's because they are actually partying together, and that's like how a party would be depicted in a movie. Like you would never see a dance floor in a movie where people are like all facing one side. They're like all together and like intertwined and like moving in like a more communal group way, like jumping from pockets and sides, and like that's the way people would dance in such a like no side dance floor party. And I thought it was a really good analogy for basically decentralization, and how like people, like it enables like a different flow of like movement and energies and thoughts and interactions. And just like observing this type of architecture can actually help a lot about like how, if you could imagine like all of the different corners and like places on the dance floor being like DAOs basically, and like how they all like move, and there's no hierarchy anymore of like front, back.
To me, like I realized also a weird thing. If you put it in the perspective of time, oftentimes like you go on Saturday night in Berlin somewhere, and people gonna be just techno tourists or whatever. Or if you go on Sunday night or Monday, whatever. At least when I used to go partying, when people know how to behave on the dance floor, it's not too crowded, it's not too in your face. Like people don't want to interact so much. So it's almost like it takes people time to be on the dance floor for a long time before they can actually feel comfortable. If I go on Saturday night to some famous Berlin club, I will just feel like, oh, come on, I cannot. Everybody's having fun, but I'm like, no, this is too much. And then you go to something. So there is also a perspective, not just a direction where everyone is looking. I think there is also how many years people were there and they know how to behave in a way. Or am I sounding completely conservative?
No, I've got to be on stage 7 in like 5 minutes, but I think
need to have a
I'm
final
going
word.
to just riff on your Berlin club thing a little bit, because I think there's something to be learned from it in terms of like they're kind of hard to get in, right? There's generally a door that is heavily guarded, let's say, and the doormen often like curate the crowd, let's say. Sometimes they'll intentionally let in someone who's a little bit like what the normal crowd wouldn't be, depending on what the vibe is. But they create a commons, basically. Once you're in, it's basically like there are no rules. Like, go and be yourself in a most uninhibited way that you want, right? But the reason why it works is because the commons is protected, right? That there is a intentional membership curation.
Yeah.
It's about who you let in the party, right?
If you let everyone in, it's like
the kind of
yeah.
If you just let anyone in, And that's the problem. Like the bully in the playground thing that you said is absolutely spot on. That was a wonderful imagery for exactly what happened. The whole sort of meme trenches turned instant. They were already PvP. The mechanic didn't change, but that kind of it almost unlifted the veil of like what the system was by doing it in such an egregious level. It broke the spell. It was like, and everything flipped really like PvP. Numbers started to go.
PvP is. I don't follow.
Player
acronyms.
versus player, like it's like not zero sum. So it's like
not a creative mode, but a PvP.
In order to win, you must lose, and then it almost turns into I want you to lose. Like the vibes go bad. I think the way that you get out of that sort of dynamic is by having spaces with membership that are well curated, like this place, for example. Not easy to get in necessarily. A lot of people don't get tickets. Some people get upset about it.
And then you run into another kind of philosophical wall of like meritocracy versus inclusion, and like if you start rating people for like usefulness or are you bringing value in, then the question is how do you define value?
Yeah.
Because it's like if somebody, let's say, burned out and didn't was not contributing enough, and then people like, yeah, why is this person still here? You know. So it's kind of like things get really complicated.
Well, I think we need to empower communities to be able to govern themselves. That includes finding the people in the community that are like bringing down the vibes and finding a nice way to be able to offboard them from the community.
Offboard.
On board, off. Like you need to be able to like
walk them to the plank. Like
well, there's the plank walking, and then there's the kind of soft exit, and then there's
retire.
In bars or all-you-can-eat places, they will give you a little card on the table, being like, "Please, like, quietly leave, and no one will know."
That's it. It's time for you to go.
Yeah, but for dictators, they do that, right? Because there is this option for dictators to retire and be safe somewhere, so they don't hold on to power too much, right? Is that a common practice? So
yeah, I think it's that kind of stuff that we need to get nailed, right? Which is like finding. That's what the network state crowds won't do. They'll just have like, you either just give all your power to a founder, say, let's go founder mode, which is a very popular thing that came out of like from Paul Graham recently. Oh, founder mode, because it's again an abstraction of the king. It's like, let's put someone in like ultimate charge,
another
or
question
you figure out how to get on with each other.
Another question is when sometimes you need to keep people outside the club to make the club like safe and cool, but you talked a lot about it. When you look at crypto from outside, even like people don't distinguish, like some protocol Berg, everybody is like, ew, crypto bros. Is like, it's not like a lot of people don't even want to be in a club anymore because it doesn't look so appealing anymore.
That's another thing that people walk through the door, think, God, this party's terrible because I'm never coming here again. On that note, I'm gonna have to run to Cinema 7. I'll let you two.
Should we come back here, or like, do you have ideas about the guests? Because now everybody has.
I'm gonna leave it up to you two to figure out.
Thank you. That was.
Thanks. Cool.
It was wonderful.